The Black Knight. Chapter 4. Kyle and Cody. Ryan was lost in a clouded black void, turning and twisting inside a shifting tunnel that began to dip and descend like the roller coaster track. Somewhere Karen was screaming, and a man replied, quite calmly. She screamed for the man to leave her alone. The man's voice said, "If he doesn't know, he must be informed." Ryan shook himself awake to see Karen sleeping next to him, her head resting on the chest guard. It was quite cool outside, a soft breeze blowing past their car in the sky. Ryan glanced at his watch and saw that it was 7:45. The control platform was empty besides the boy's dead body. The pool of blood around him had grown and had begun to dry. Jeremy's bug eyes remained open, mouth frozen in a silent scream. The door marked private was still closed. "Ryan, are you awake?" Cody asked from right behind Ryan. "Yeah, kid, what's up?" Ryan offered with a slow yawn. His stomach churned hungrily, and he braced himself against the raging cramps running up his abdomen. "I can't sleep is all," Cody replied quietly. "Who could blame you? I guess I just got lucky." "I got something on my mind, Ryan. I've seen this guy before." "What do you mean, kid?" Ryan asked after a confused pause. "I think I saw this guy before in the arts park by my house," Cody explained. "I was there skateboarding, skating with Jeremy, and this guy strolled up." "You sure it was him?" Ryan asked. Karen started to look around, dazed and interested. Her ears perked as the boy continued his story. "I'm pretty sure it was him. He had the same yellow scarf on, but hanging loose on his shoulders and not wrapped around his neck," Cody said. "I remember he looked really odd, wearing such wintry clothes in spring. He had the same coat, but different pants. I can remember he had long sideburns and green eyes." "How long ago did you see him?" Ryan asked. "Spring last year," Cody said simply. "Maybe early April." "What was he doing?" "Looking around at the sculptures mostly. I kinda watched him as I walked around. He then met a woman and—" Cody fell silent. "What?" Kyle asked from behind Cody. "He met a woman who looks a lot like the girl you're with," Cody said, dumbfounded. Ryan didn't have to turn to know that the boy was wide-eyed with this new realization. Ryan turned toward Karen, who gave him a small smile. Her eyes blinked heavily, and her face was sleek with pouring sweat. "I don't know what you're talking about," Karen replied, avoiding eye contact with her boyfriend. "This kid is obviously making stuff up." "It probably wasn't her," Cody countered. "It was a long time ago." "What were they doing?" Ryan asked, still studying Karen's face. "They looked like they were struggling, and the woman was crying." Karen winced. Ryan was about to question Cody further when a gunshot echoed over the silent park. Everyone in the car turned toward the dimly lit platform where the gunman currently stood, his rifle pointed straight up into the black sky. He waved with one gloved hand as the fluorescent bulb above his head flickered, giving him the illusion of appearing and disappearing. When the light finally caught, the killer rested the rifle on his shoulder and pointed the nose straight up at the car. He lowered his face to the scope, his other hand going for the trigger. "Shit! Duck!" Ryan screamed, slouching as far as he could in his seat. "Oh God!" Kyle announced from the back, and then Cody shrieked in terror. Karen screamed, pressing her face into Ryan's shoulder. Another shot rang out, and Ryan heard the bullet pound the metal car. He could also hear the distant sound of a gun cocking before another bullet struck the car. A loud ring followed as the shot ricocheted into the night. "No! Oh God, no!" Kyle cried. The gun exploded again, and Ryan heard the whine of a bullet just a few seats behind him. Karen shrieked once more before another heavy gun blast smashed against her eardrums. A louder sound, much closer, resembled the dull smack of stomping a dead leaf on the sidewalk. This time Kyle screamed in unmistakable pain. Everyone knew that Kyle was hit. Ryan happened to peek over the edge to see the gunman leaning his hot rifle against the control panel. He gave them one last glance before turning back into his office and shutting the door. Kyle sounded another scream. "Oh Jesus, my chest! He got me in the ribs!" Kyle gasped through what sounded like a mouthful of gravel and water. "Jesus Christ!" "Where'd it hit you, Kyle?" "Where in the chest?" Ryan blurted, trying to keep his voice calm. "Oh God, I'm bleeding pretty bad," Kyle replied shakily. "Left side. Jesus, hurts like a bitch." "How bad are you bleeding?" Ryan sent Karen a sideways glance. Her fingers were clamped between her teeth, eyes shut and pouring tears. I, enough to pool around my lap," Kyle replied weakly. "Damn it," Ryan cursed under his breath. "Don't worry," Cody suddenly shouted. Then Karen was thrust forward as Cody's feet pressed up against the back of her seat. Cody wrenched his upper body through the chest guard until his chin rested on the cold padding. He sounded a tremendous groan. squeezing his head through the tight space. Then he kicked at Karen's back as Cody popped the rest of his cranium beyond the chest guard. After that, he pulled himself back to his feet and instinctively went to stretch his muscles. "Cody, please get help," Kyle cried. Cody turned toward Kyle, nodding slightly and eyeing the man's open wound. Ryan peered down the track at the second set of stairs that he had observed before. It was much closer than the other staircase, which was only a few yards away. Cody must have spotted it before Ryan because he was already passing through the aisle to climb over the nose of the car. Ryan got his first good look at the kid as he passed. Cody was sweating profusely, and dark bags weighed heavy underneath his eyes. He was trembling immensely as he stepped lightly onto the track, but he still managed to send Ryan one last feverish and empty look as he set his sights for the platform below them. "Careful, kid," Ryan advised solidly. "You've got this. It is possible." The boy sat down on his butt and slowly inched his way down the sloping track. He made quick time with this strategy and had opened the gate to the stairs in no time. He turned, gave Ryan a distracted thumbs up, and then mounted his first step. In a matter of minutes, he was on the ground level, sprinting across the choppy gravel. It was so dark that Ryan lost the boy for a second in the night, but suddenly Cody was illuminated in the heavy glow of the control pad's overhead light. "Yeah, kid, that's it," Ryan murmured under his breath. Kyle moaned painfully and muttered a series of incomprehensible words. Cody ran for the controls at the far end of the platform, leaping over the track with ease. He paused at the rifle leaning against the controls, visibly deciding on whether to pick it up. Yet he turned away from the gun and stared down at the console. He then performed the same confused head scratch that Jeremy had used before he died. Cody's head continued to swivel over his shoulder to check on the closed office door. Unfortunately, his eyes were drawn to his friend's dead body at his feet. Ryan could tell that Cody's hands were trembling considerably more, even at his height and distance. Then, as expected, the office door creaked open. "No!" Karen shouted. "Look out!" Yet Cody was already aware of his visitor. The door swung open just as Cody wrapped his sweaty fingers around the rifle barrel. He stepped back with the gun stock pressed up against his shoulder in an instant, just as he had witnessed the gunman do. One finger went for the trigger and one eye zoomed into the scope. The gunman stepped out of the office, holding what looked like a set of throwing stars. His masked head swerved from left to right, and when he noticed Cody at the controls, he jolted backward, and his hand wound back with the throwing stars sliding between his fingers. But Cody had already pulled the trigger. From above them, Ryan held his breath, and Kyle moaned. The gun bucked out of Cody's hands with the shot, and the glass piece from the scope connected with his forehead and split it open with a rush of blood. The gun fell to the platform with a crash, and the butt end crunched with Cody's toes. The gunman was swept backward as the bullet turned his kneecap into a dripping red crater. The hand holding the shuriken stars flashed with a sudden flick of the wrist, and all three stars fanned out into the air. Then the gunman collapsed onto the platform, crying out in bitter pain. One star buried itself in the platform steel floor, and another disappeared into the sky. The last one cut across Cody's forearm, tearing open a deep laceration just below his elbow. Cody folded to his knees, screaming while the gunman clambered toward his rifle. Yet Cody noticed this and smacked the gun away with the back of his hand. It skated across the platform, well beyond both of their reaches. As a recourse, the killer grabbed Cody's wounded arm and they both crumpled to the cold steel, two hulks in the flickering light. They both wrestled across the ground, the gunman's hands grappling for Cody's neck. Cody's hands beat at the man's chest, and one flailing finger was able to pull the beanie cap over his eyes. The gunman automatically loosened his grip on Cody's neck as one of his hands hurried to free his eyes. Cody saw his chance and mustered all his strength to thrust the killer off his chest with his knees and hands. As the man rolled across the platform, Cody grimaced as the wound on his arm opened even wider. Once again, the killer wound up on his chest and tried to regain his footing. Cody was able to pounce on his back and send him sprawling again. Cody seized the man's cap and yanked his head backward, exposing his throat. Then Cody smashed the killer's nose into the floor. Even from his lookout point, Ryan could hear the gunman's screams. Cody pulled on the cap again, which slipped off the man's head and revealed a thick tangle of black hair. Cody discarded the man's hat and again pushed the killer's face into the steel. He did it once more until the man's body stopped squirming and his eyes had diminished. Cody fell off the man and leaned against the nearest wall, trying to regain his breath. Just as he attempted to stand up to return to the controls, a booted foot cracked him across the jaw. Faster than any of them expected, the gunman had rolled over onto his back and sent a sharp kick in Cody's direction, which leveled him with the ground in a daze. The man crawled toward Cody's body and grabbed him by the ankle. The boy cried out, scrambling away as sharp nails dug into Cody's bare ankle. Just like that, the killer reeled him in, and he was laughing. The gunman was just about to wrap both of his hands around Cody's leg, but the boy finally kicked at the killer's already dislocated nose with the heel of his shoe. Another sickening crack echoed in the small space, and the man screamed again. Cody wriggled away from his grasp just as blood cascaded down the man's face and scarf. With a new surge of strength, Cody managed to stand up and run to the other side of the platform and away from the controls. "What is he doing? Why isn't he going for the controls?" Ryan cried out. "He's leaving us," Karen said with a distant voice. "We're dead." Ryan watched the boy reach the set of cubbies where they had all stashed their personal belongings, including their cell phones and change, right before boarding the Black Knight. Cody reached into the cubbyhole and withdrew his cell phone. From behind him, the gunman had regained a set of wobbly feet, nursing his nose and shattered kneecap with his left and right hand, respectively. He tried to apply weight to his left leg, but it collapsed under him and he fell on his side with a sharp yelp. Then the gunman noticed the rifle lying within his reach. He snatched it up quickly and flipped onto his stomach with the gun draped over his shoulder and back. Like a sniper on a hill, he cocked the weapon and aimed it directly at Cody's back. "Watch out!" Ryan screamed from the coaster. Cody heard this and turned swiftly around, just in time to stare into the man's rifle. The gunman laughed maliciously under his blood-stained scarf. Cody only had time to squint his eyes before the killer pulled the trigger. "No!" Ryan yelled. There was only a soft click, indicating an empty stock. Cody smiled, pocketing the cell phone, and then hopped off the platform. Ryan and Karen watched with frozen awe as he sprinted into the night and became lost in the shadows. They watched the boy blink out of existence and then exchange silent smiles. They didn't want to laugh and cry out while Kyle sat behind them, moaning in unrelenting pain, so they reached across the seat and held hands instead. From below, the killer roared with rage.